Hey there, it's Robert Ohato. Are you an empathic soul? What does it even mean to be an empathic soul? How do you know? How do you know whether you are or not? Is that the same as being an empath? If you are an empathic soul, what's the empathic soul contract and destiny? What do you need to know in terms of negotiating this world that only offers a five sensory survival based psychology as an empathic soul? How are you going to find your footing in a world that's all it offers you, really? Sound like something you might be interested in? Are you highly sensitive? Are you someone who you just pick up on the energy of other people without trying? You walk into a crowd, you come out flattened because there's so much energy you've just absorbed? Are you someone that has a hard time maintaining boundaries? Let's look at this current social media age. Are you somebody who you're out there in social media and you scroll through Instagram, you get on Facebook, YouTube, where we are right now on this Friday social live, but you walk away feeling like you got to go take a bath, a shower, because somehow you got all this new psychic stuff stuck on you. Well, if you're interested in having a conversation about all that, you are in the right place on this Friday social live. I'm going to be talking all about that, sharing with you some insights, talking about this new body of work I catapulted into and out of this last year, called the Empathic Soul and Love Rebel. We got lots to discuss. It's Friday Social Live with me, Robert Ohato. How are you doing? Let me give some shout outs. Let me just see how everybody's doing. Hey, Luann, Ellen Sue Diamat. I see Sarah Ann. How are you guys doing? I just want to double check also that I am streaming okay, because this is a bit new and I am using new software, but it looks like everything's going pretty well here. Hello from Greece. Well, hello, Greece. It's got to be a little bit late your time. That's super cool. So I'm just going to get a little settled here. Hopefully you're going to settle in with me. I've got my half full kombucha tea again, because I'm half full, always. And I'm super excited to share with you these insights, truly, seriously, and also tell you about a little bit of something about them, because I'm going to be, oddly enough, leaving up this new body of work behind for a little while. I've actually spent the whole last year exploring what empathic souls are, teaching about them, mapping a whole new, psychology about this stuff. And I'm going to be moving into new territory in 2021. So I want to give you all one last, you probably heard me talk about this stuff for quite a while now. And I just want to give everybody one last look at this incredible body of work, which I think is very fundamental. Sorry, I'm having issues with my my Facebook here, not my Facebook on my iPad, which I'm using to verify that I'm streaming okay. So Tracy Davies, you're an empath. All right. You need to go. Yes, Luann, you can watch this on demand. There will be a replay. Just come back to either YouTube or Facebook where we're streaming live. Absolutely. Peggy Voigt. Hallo aus Deutschland. Wie geht es dir? Ich hoffe, alles gut bei dir. Heute Abend, ja? All right. Olive Murray. Hello. Tony Brewster. I got YouTube. We got Facebook. We got Facebook and YouTube in the house. So yeah. I want to talk to you all about, what it means to be an empathic soul and why I think this is the teaching of our time. Really, it truly is. Let me just kind of give you a little bit of a background. Then I'm going to share with you a video. I'm going to try to anyway. I've got this new capability in my software to share some video from a webinar kind of webcast event I did. Oh boy, almost a year ago, where I, for 2 hours, talked about what empathic souls are, how to know if you are one. And then I'm going to guide you on how to go watch that for free after we're done here. So you can watch the whole thing. We'll watch a little bit of that together today, but then I want to take your cues and then I want to send you on your way to go watch it on my website if you're so inclined. What I began to realize in a lot of my work as an intuitive, doing thousands of readings, and this wasn't an insight I had in my earlier days, but it did start to dawn on me that a lot of my clients and students now as a teacher were wired differently than most other people. They just had, at a soul level, a different vibe, a different configuration than other souls that I could sense and see in the world. And most of my clients, back when I was doing intuitive readings, came to me because they were struggling with this wiring. They were struggling with trying to get a mooring in who they are in the world and why their system works the way it does. And the way that it would manifest in terms of challenges for them is that they'd feel hypersensitive, overwhelmed by others' energies, really having a hard time keeping boundaries, really having a hard time not feeling others' feelings and others' emotional systems. And what I realized, kind of cutting to it here, is that there's something, and I can't, this is not something I can prove. I think when it comes to the intuitive arts, sometimes you got to drop something in your gut, in your heart, and see if it feels true. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But that's a lot of times how we arrive in the energetic sense of truth at what's true spiritually, at what's true psychospiritually, mystically. And what I began to see as true, mystically, psychospiritually, psychologically, is that there are certain souls that are just wired to sense in this life more bandwidth, more information, more dimensional data than other souls. Some folks, I could give you example of how you yourself right now could know this to be true by assessing people in your life. Think of people in your life that don't seem to feel as deeply as you, to pick up on as much from the environment as you do, to question what is reality. Not everyone, for example, has the seeker archetype. Not everyone's going, what does this mean? Believe it or not, you and I might be like, how can they not ask that question? Because we're seekers. But not everybody lives in that zone of curiosity, perception, inquisitiveness. They're just at a soul level, not wired for it. Now, I could speculate around and I could offer some insights around why is that? Why is it that some folks seem like at a soul level, they want to understand the mysteries of the universe and others do not? Why does it seem like some people are more interested in only 3 dimensions of life and living, while others are interested in however dimensions may exist of life and living? What is it that creates the differences between us, right? Well, it's a soul thing. And as I've taught this material of the Empathic Soul and Love Rebel, I'll get into that in a minute here in terms of what that actually is, what it's about. I want to land you in the territory. I want to bring you to the country as I simultaneously create the map and get you into a perspective that maybe you hadn't really considered before about you, about others. So what's just true is at a soul level. We're different. And I learned this most acutely when I was doing readings and using my favorite tool, intuitive tool of astrology, to do the readings on the twins of mothers. I'd have mothers bring, their children to me back in the early days when I was doing readings, and they would have twins sometimes. And in fact, I'd get these themes in my readings. Like one week would be the theme would be twins. That week I had somehow booked through synchronicity like 3 clients that had twins. And they had asked me to peek into the soul contracts of their twins through the birth chart. Now, if you know anything about astrology, if you're a twin, it's quite likely, if not often the case, that you have the same chart as your twin sibling. You'll have the same exact birth chart. But if you just read it that way, in my language, in my point of view, you're only in 2 to 3D of consciousness. You're just reading a map, but not the country. The country that's, in that map is the soul. So what I began to read, because not only was I using the tool of astrology, which is genius and brilliant as a blueprint of archetypes and patterns and archetypal architecture itself, I was reading the soul that's working with that architecture and could sense accurately how each twin would express destiny, potential, challenges, etc. through, yes, the architecture and dynamics archetypally of that chart, but the consciousness engaged in that chart had more to do with how that architecture was expressed than anything. So one twin could use the chart this way. One twin could use the chart that way. And what determined that was the soul. I could similarly be looking at the birth chart of a dog or a 10-year-old. Same exact chart. It could possibly be the same exact chart, born at the same time, same place, etc. But what determines expression through the chart is, now I'm getting into a more multifaceted riff here, is dynamic. And goes not only to soul, but also species of soul or being when it comes to how we exist and express consciousness in this life. That said, empathic souls, they're souls that are wired differently. Now, we could speculate, is this a culmination of past lives, growth, evolution? Yeah, all of the above as far as I'm concerned. But really, who cares? All that matters is, are you one? Are you an empathic soul? And if you are, like most of my clients and students are and have been, you need to know a few things about negotiating co-creation and reality here. One, you need to know that you primarily are probably operating off of a 5 sensory-based psychology that's centered mostly around survival and ego levels of esteem. Nothing right or wrong about that at all. But it has its vulnerabilities. It has enormous limits. So if you're trying to get a coordinate, a compass with the fact that you as an empathic soul pick up on intuitive, energetic information. And in fact, you don't even realize you're doing it all the time. What you realize are the symptoms of doing it badly, like psychic overwhelm, feeling depressed or overwhelmed with anxiety for no apparent reason. No reason. There's no way you can locate in your direct current experience why you feel so bad. And what you don't know, because no one teaches you this, is you're feeling the grief of another country. You're feeling your neighbor. You're feeling the person you just crossed paths with at the grocery store. 5 sensory psychology does not accommodate this. Now, I'm going to level up one here just to give you a little sense of where I've been and where I'll partly take you today. Not only do empathic souls need a multi-sensory psychology. That's what I'm talking about. You need a multi-sensory psychology because you have multiple empathic soul senses. So 5-dimensional stats and rats of clinical psychology, which I studied in college, aren't going to cut it. It's useful. It's absolutely got its place. I'm glad I have that foundation from my undergraduate studies. Yet, it's not going to suffice for too long at all. If you're an empathic soul, you're going to need something else. So what I began to do this last year, and I realized right now why it's so important, is because we live in a new internet age, right? We also live in a whole new entire age, that said, of propaganda, psychic viruses, fake news, as they say, things circulating as reality that are not real. Agendas, shadow agendas permeating social media and news media that are all engineered to hijack your system into a tribe, into a political view, into a disempowered collapse, into illusion. Now, if you're an empathic soul, your ears should be perking up like an elf right now, because I'm going through fundamental challenges of your life right now. That you could be feeling something from the field around you, that you could be seduced into clicking into darkness. I want you to now know every time you click something online, you're connecting your empathic system with that. You are taking your focus into a dimension. Now, what I realized after teaching, I've taught 2 masterclasses on this. I'm in the midst of the second one right now. After I taught the first masterclass, which became this incredible 25-hour journey in which I went through, and I'll go through some of this with you today, the primary archetypes of the Empathic Soul Contract. I went through and I culled from my whole entire body of work, my own life experience, because I identify as an empathic soul myself, my whole 2 decades of readings. Yes, I'm almost 50. I know. Who can believe? When I brought that all together this last year, I began to realize I was being guided to create a new body of work. Now, there's been a lot of talk, and I saw someone say something out here recently just now in the chat about calling oneself an empath or identifying as an empath. But I have to be honest here. I've not seen anyone talk about being an empath or having an empathic soul from a place of power, from a place of soul contracts and potential. I've mostly seen people talk about being an empath from the point of view of being victimized by that, by being so sensitive. And there certainly is a whole, sense of woe often around this. To be so open and capable of feeling things is rough going until you get that is your light. And why would you ever make your light your wound? So being an empathic soul is, and as I've mapped in my masterclasses, about being a light worker. But let's get clear on what it means to be a light worker. It means your soul signed up for a lifetime to bring through your empathic soul gifts into this life light. And I'm not talking about light versus dark kind of light. I'm talking about light as a force of grace, as a force of power that is beyond polarity, beyond duality. I'm talking about you having a soul contract to come here during this very precarious shift in consciousness on the planet and somehow be an emissary of a new era of patterns, a new era of living in a holographic understanding dimensionally of life, a new era of living in mystical truths, like we're all one. You can't accomplish being that kind of light worker if you're empathically collapsed all the time and guarding your life as if it's always about ready to victimize you because you're too sensitive to handle it. It goes contra soul contracts here. So I want you to feel something in yourself. I mean, maybe you have felt like for a while, I'm too sensitive for this life. Can't take it. It's too much. But I'm going to ask you as your guide, I'm going to go, do you think you signed some kind of soul agreement to come down here and suffer in a collapse of being hypersensitive? Is that the measure of your potential? And you're going to tell me, I can already hear you. Hell no. That's not what I want to be doing on this planet. And I'm here to tell you, nor do you have to be doing that. But you do need to understand that if you're a light worker, Your soul contract has you aligned to go somewhere dark, to bring light. What do you think light workers do? They go where the light is needed. Come on now. And what I begin to realize in all my work, and this is why I got inspired this last year to create this body of work, the Empathic Soul and Love Rebel, is that to effectively move in the world as an empathic soul. And I steer away from saying empath because it does, to me, have too much psychic baggage, folks. It's got too much victimization in it. And it's oftentimes, I think, used carelessly. When you understand the power and depth and beauty of a soul contract for someone who's an empathic soul, you wouldn't casually throw around that you're an empath. You'd be like, okay, I got to come correct. I'm here to be an alchemist, a channel of light to dark places. And what I would say is, when I look at my clients in my own life and review anyone that I would consider to be an empathic soul, I don't see perfect lives. I don't see people who got it down. I see people who went through dark things oftentimes. I see people who have been through incredible journeys, oftentimes of deep suffering and yes, victimization. I've seen people carry karmic momentums that are not their own. The bodhisattva, that's one of the archetypes of the empathic soul contract. I've seen people carry others' karma as a soul agreement to help them wake up, or a group or a country wake up to a mystical truth, a mystical law. The reality we're all one. That's what I've seen in empathic soul contracts. So I want you to take a step back and just hang with what I'm putting down here. How does it feel? How does it feel to know, wow, the reality is I feel a lot, not because I'm worthless or because I'm here to suffer, but because I'm a soul who chose to be in this lifetime, in this moment, here and alive, as an alchemist, as a light worker, as a shaman, as a channel, as a magician. Changes the whole game. But here's what's true. It would make sense that you would look to your life, a lot of us, and feel like, I don't belong here. Because there's never been an adequate psychology for you, an adequate way to understand your multisensory empathic soul senses and nature. We have some piecemeal here and there. But oftentimes that's not anchored and grounded in some more, I think, important psychological concepts like the creating and building of a healthy ego structure. We turn to spirituality and self-help, and a lot of times what we hear is that the ego is just all bad. And ironically, it seems like the ones saying that the most are tripping up all over their own egos. I'm just saying. And I'm here to tell you, the ego is a necessity. You have a soul contract to have identity here. Do you want to consciously work with that from a place of power? Do you want to bring what I love is this healthy merging and of human ego development and soul mystical development together, where they both complement each other, and you land yourself on what I call soul esteem? That's actually what you'll have to do if you want to live in empowerment as an empathic soul. And if you call yourself an empath, I'd say as an empath. So, some things to sit with. Do you really feel that you were just born to suffer? Do you really feel there is no way to live in this world with high voltage intuitive skills and not have boundaries? Now, I'm living proof that can happen. I have hundreds and, if not now, thousands of students that prove that. But what you need a map. You need to understand exactly, how do you get to that place? And that's what I've created in both Empathic Soul and Love Rebel 1.0 and 2.0. Now, let me talk about the Love Rebel part of this. When I was beginning to sort of come to a baseline around Empathic Soul Contracts, a baseline understanding, what I realized is that they each had a different configuration of archetypes. Not all Empathic Soul Contracts have every Empathic Soul archetype, but different pieces and bits here and there. But what they all had in common, and this is a destiny archetype. This means this is an archetype you have to evolve into to pull off destiny. That you got to learn, you got to apprentice this force. Every Empathic Soul I ever read had to work with the Love Rebel. Now, the Love Rebel is a little combination, mystical combination of the Rebel archetype and the Lover, the mystical lover, coming together and engaging in what? What do rebels do? Rebels take on a current system that somehow oppresses people. I'm going to riff through and do some different stuff here. Oppresses people, tells them they're not enough. And let's go mystical. A love rebel takes on a system that does not honor mystical law and mystical truth. Like, we all have value, for example. So a love rebel is going to go, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not down with this particular system. You know why? It's creating a sense of better and less than in people. And that is just simply not in harmony with mystical truth. That is simply not in harmony with soul esteem, which states as a mystical truth and law that everyone has value no matter what. There's nothing you can do to have more value. There's nothing you can do to have less value. It's simply your nature to be valuable. Love rebels go in and go, you know what? I do this from love. I rebel and move toward revolution from love. I'm not here to make anyone right or wrong. I'm here on the behalf of all is one. I'm here on behalf of soul esteem. I'm here on behalf of holism. So rebels take on systems that do not work. But we got to get clear. What does that mean? Do not work. That do not honor mystical truths. Do not honor mystical laws. If you're an empathic soul, you got a contract to, in some way, move into a love rebellion in many areas of your life. Not just personally, which is where you'll likely start, but collectively as well. So this starts to lay the territory down of what the Empathic Soul and Love Rebel body of work is about. Now, right now I'm teaching a 2.0 version of this, and where I went from 1.0, which was a deep mapping of a multisensory psychology. We went into the archetypes of the Empathic Soul Contract in 1.0. We went into the need, why you actually have bad boundaries. And let me just clue you in on a little hint. It's not because of, I don't know, your inability to keep your psychic space clear through rituals. That is actually the last thing that matters in your boundaries, honestly. What matters in your boundaries more than anything is your esteem system. And by that, I mean the way you subconsciously, unconsciously, through some shadow survival archetype in you, get value from others and life itself. So if the way I do that is I am a people pleaser, what kind of boundaries does a people pleaser have? Like if they have any at all. Hint, hint. You know what I mean? So if I'm a people pleaser, I'm constantly boundaryless. Because if my objective is I want to make you happy so you like me, and so that I know I'm enough, and if you like me, I'll know I'm enough, we're back to esteem. I want to make you happy so you know that, so I know that you need me. Because I can make you happy. I have that power. What do you need? I'll make you happy, says the people pleaser. Now let's shift a notch here. Let's go to codependent. They're adjacent patterns, but there is a difference. The codependent says, well, let me just feel for you. Let's go codependent empath. Let's do it. Codependent victimized empath, because it victimizes you. Let me feel your feelings for you. Let me carry the pain you can't feel. You need to know if you're an empathic soul, you can do this like that. It's easy. You carry people's pain. You don't even realize that's what you do. It's so natural. Now, if you were empowered in your soul contract as an empath, you could do this from a conscious alchemical point of view. But that's not what we do, is it? So what kind of boundaries does a codependent empath have? And you think saging's going to help that? Do you think saging's going to help protect you from what your shadow survival archetypes do every day? Do you really think that? It'd be nothing. It'd be just like, I'm going to go take a nice shower and clean off the psychic debris and dirt of the day. But when I'm done, I've got a pattern like the people pleaser, codependent empath, and I'm going to go roll around all over in the debris again and get all dirty anyway. So I'll enjoy my clean psychic field for about 5 minutes as I'm toweling off. But before I go to bed, I'll have gotten on social media and codependented around, because that's how I get it. That's how I feel like I'm enough in the world. It's how I know I'm needed. It's how I know I matter. Now, in 1.0, I explored this deeply and went into some paradoxes and some loops that happen in your psyche. But I want to get you kind of primed and in the territory here, because this is what it comes down to. This is why you need to work with really robust, powerful elements of psychology. We don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We just need a bigger tub that accommodates what our empathic soul system does, because it's just how it's wired. And then that empathic soul system merges itself into becoming human and human psychology and a 5 sensory-based survival psychology that falls egregiously short of being able to help you understand, hey, you need to know this about yourself. You feel other people. You can feel their emotional states as if they're your own. You can actually pick up on their mental thought forms and not even realize that's not you thinking. You're picking up on theirs. Where did you learn that as a kid? And in a way that was grounded to healthy ego development or healthy esteem development? Well, you probably didn't. And that's exactly why I felt called truly to do this whole entire massive body of work. Now in 2.0, I got to share this with you, and I'm going to show not tonight, but I'm going to show you all this incredible video clip from one of the last lessons I did. Because this is what brought me to talking about this with you right now. I'm in the middle of teaching 2.0 right now, which is about dimensions. This is about the need for a not just multi-sensory psychology, but a multi-dimensional psychology and spirituality. Now, in subsequent Friday social lives, I'll explain that more because it is huge. Like it is the next extension and level after you get multi-sensory psychology down and understand what that needs to be and how to have boundaries and empowerment in that. You've got to go to, okay, I have to now address the fact that I am multidimensional. I have to get shamanic. I have to understand that I, as an empathic soul, can traverse in and out of dimensions of energy, of reality, all the time. And I don't want you to get, you go in and out of a dimension every day. This is not super woo-woo, I got to meditate and go shamanic to do it. You go to work, that's a dimension. You come home, that's a dimension. You go to your gym, that's a dimension. I mean, I'm talking pre-COVID probably here, but you know what I'm saying? You get on social media, Facebook, it's a dimension with many dimensions in it. You watch a TV show, you are taken to a dimension of that story. You're so multidimensional, you're miserable because you don't know how to manage it. And it's not that being multidimensional is good or bad. Rather, if you don't know how to move consciously and understand what gets you stuck in a dimension, what keeps you stuck in a dimension. You could go to relationships for some of this. You have relationships that themselves are dimensional. Your family system is a dimension. Your culture is a dimension. You move in a certain language native to your culture and perhaps country that is itself dimensional. So if you're speaking another language and if you're bilingual, you know exactly what I mean. There's things I can say in German and French that I cannot express the same way dimensionally in English, and vice versa. You've been living dimensionally your whole entire life, but you weren't doing it consciously. And there are other ways to work within dimensions by understanding what powers them, how they're constructed, and how you dimensionally exist in three ways: horizontally, vertically, and then spherically. This is all 2.0. This is what I'm rocking out right now. So I'll be showing you a video from that to show you how the wounded healer, which is a soul, an empathic soul archetype, how that works when it comes to your calling. What the shaman archetype even is. You guys, this is really, I'm telling you, this body of work for me has blown me away. It has been so high voltage to my system. That is partly why after I'm done with 2.0, I will be taking a break from it for a while. It's been the highest voltage I've ever pulled through me. You know, for me to share insights and move and intuitively engage as an empathic soul teacher, my system's in play. My nervous system's in play. My emotional system's in play. Can you imagine the year I've had? And so is yours. We work this way. We are organized as empathic souls this way. So you might ask, you know, I know it's going to be a question because I'm offering 1.0. That's why I'm taking the time to communicate to you, first of all, the value of this body of work. And if it's something you're called to explore and do, I did reopen. I felt really, truly guided by heaven, if you will, to do this. I reopened 1.0 and 2.0 both. And then 1.0, once it closes, I'm not teaching or going near that content again for 2 years. I actually, if you run a business, if you work online, if you're a teacher online, you know that there's only so much runway to launch a course, to teach a course. And all that includes promotion. I mean, I will be honest with you, I'm pretty transparent this way. Promoting a course is as much energy as teaching it and as much time. If I don't communicate to you that this course exists, how do I get students? But what you may never really register is for anybody, not just me, but anybody that's out there teaching or offering anything or of service in the world. We have to let you know about the service, and that takes enormous resources to do. So as I look to 2021 and 2022, I have other things I want to teach. There's other things I want to bring around, and then I will cycle back to this content again in a couple of years. But I want you to know, if anything I'm saying is speaking to you, and I'm going to give you a lot of free stuff to check out, because I don't think you should ever be in a class that you don't belong in. And if anything I'm saying is speaking to you, though, I want you to listen to your own soul and kind of explore, take the time, explore some of the free videos I'm going to offer these Friday social lives, and see if you're called to this work. And if now's the right time. I felt that it was the exact right time to bring this model of work forward, because we do live in a very challenging internet age, which has, I think, wired our nervous systems a certain way. And for those of us who are empathic souls, it has made a dimensional infection or dimensional nourishment just one click away. That's where we are now. One website, one click away from healing or being wounded or being spellcast or being woken up. It's not that the internet is inherently good or bad. But what's also true is that your system, your psychic system, your empathic soul system is now working with new technology that demands new inner technology as well. Absolutely. So, how you guys doing? Colleen Barrett, bigger tub, right? Can I get an amen for a bigger tub? How you guys doing? I'm going to look at some of your new comments here. Take a minute. I feel like here I am, like, I was going to show you guys the video. Maybe I won't even do that because I'm already 40 minutes in and I can't shut up. I will show you some of the video so you can then go watch it on my website. 2-hour, wonderful 2 hours at free to take in over the weekend, hopefully, if you can. Sarah Evans has done 1.0. Awesome. Yes. Yeah. Who's in my classes? Give me a shout out. You know, it was the most. Hey, Ilka. Julie Farron. Amber. Loved 1.0. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thanks, everybody. You know, I will tell you, this is the most successful course I ever taught. Hands down. Like, by a long shot. I had thousands of people in it. Truly. Renee's in 2.0. So I'm talking about, hey, 2.0 people, soul contract hypnosis is done. It's up. Go get it. Oh, Amber, come on, do it. Just saying. Of course, I'm biased. Okay. Do you have any questions, folks? Any questions about anything I've talked about so far? I expected to only talk 10 minutes, and, you know, here we are. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'll take any questions you have. Jody, oh, this is a great question. Let me put this up, Jody. And then I realized I was leaving the questions up too long last time, because then you can't really, hey, Jody, you can't really then focus on me. Jody says, can I benefit from the course if I don't know if I'm an empathic soul? Well, honestly, yeah, absolutely. You can, because there's so much in it. And let me just say something about synchronicity. If you're watching this right now, if I was a betting man, which I kind of am, I do have the gambler a little bit, I bet you are one. Now, just because someone's an empathic soul doesn't mean that we're all sort of standard edition. You know what I mean? We're all a little different in that group, in that soul group. So you might find you're more impacted by certain things than others in terms of the body work I'm offering. But as a structured body, and also what I want you to do, first of all, is the video I'm going to show you. The whole question is, are you an empathic soul? I go into, for 2 hours, an evaluation with you to see, are you an empathic soul? There's markers, there's way to determine if you are. And if you're still not sure, you got to remember this. This is something I learned about myself. I've always been very sensitive. I've always had a certain wisdom about life that really truly came in with me. Then there's, of course, the wisdom of experience. There's the wisdom of going through life and its growing pains that you can only get by being alive in this lifetime and going through challenges and etc. But I always had an innate knowing and almost like Zen space in me that just showed up with me. You also have something that just showed up with you, many things that just showed up with you as a soul. But here's the catch about that. Because it's so normal or baseline for us, sometimes we can't get away from it to look at it and go, oh my God, I am an empathic soul. It's just that, it's just, I thought it was supposed to be something super special, but I've always been this way. I've always been sensitive. I've always been insightful. I've always been able to sense in spaces. And I always had a kind of hotline to heaven. I always had a knowing of sorts because it's so normal to you. You're looking for like some Hollywood version of this big deal when the reality is it's just like, not a big deal. It's a challenge at times because you might have certain, things you've got to learn that aren't offered here adequately, like I've been saying, to help you along psychologically, psychospiritually, grow into an empowered way to be with you and your soul's nature. But it's natural to you. So, I'll just use my own gay identity as a marker here. Growing up just innately gay since I can remember, like, in this whole like lie that it's a choice. Did you choose to be straight one day? I mean, do you just wake up and I think out of the options, I'm going to select straight? Bye. I mean, it's just, no. For me, I knew that I was different right away because I was made very aware it was wrong to be different that way. But if I had lived in a culture where, all sexualities were accepted, all gender identities were accepted, I would have just been like, oh yeah, I'm going on a date with a dude. Because it's just, it's natural to you. So if you're trying to assess, am I an empathic soul? Am I not? I want you to start with stepping out of yourself for a sec, to step back in, but stepping out to go, wait a minute, these things that he's talking about, that I'm talking about, that I'll be talking about, they really resonate. They're just natural to me. And if you're still confused, can you get something out of the courses? Absolutely. Absolutely. But do weigh in yourself whether they're right for you. I want to make sure you're where you're supposed to be. But anyone, you can get many things out of these courses. So I love your question. Thank you. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Okay. CJ Boyd. Great question, CJ Boyd. Some of the terms and labels are a bit overwhelming. Are the courses easy to understand for new explorers? I'll be honest, CJ, this is college level stuff. Now, having said that, I am I'm oftentimes called Professor Ohato, true story, because I will literally in the course give you succinct definitions. I actually do this. I'm like, there's its own dictionary in the courses to help you along. Because I'm a technician. I like technical language. I like to be technically sharp and clear. And I want to make sure when you're in these courses, you're not hearing me say psychic and then thinking crystal balls. When I mean, being able to feel energy fields through your own psyche. So I'm very astute and acute with definitions and discerning that way. But another thing to consider, it's college level, straight up, and you have lifetime access to these courses. So if it takes you a year to get through the material, you got forever. So, so long as there's a planet, so long as I have a website. So, lifetime is relative, but I think actually in some ways, to be honest, let me offer this insight as well. If you're kind of a new explorer, this might be the best place to start because I'm bringing you in to the real without you having to go through a lot of the cacophony out there around these ideas of being empathic, of being an empath. I'm bringing you into a core, astute way to work with your own system. So just some things to consider, but I will tell you straight up, these are very high-end, high-level learning courses. If you're a new explorer, I think you can definitely get in. Just know those other parameters. And you have, like I said, there's no time limit on how long you get to work with them. Okay, great question. Oh, Diane Smith. This is an interesting question. Hi, Diane Smith. I had a reading with you in the past and you never mentioned that I was an empathic soul or love rebel. Does that mean I am not one? Diane, I love your question for so many reasons. So many reasons. Here's the deal. As an intuitive, professional intuitive, as a human being, as a teacher, I've been evolving, and Diane, I'm not sure when we had readings. I know it was definitely at least 3 years ago because I haven't done any readings since then. But I did not tell my clients. I don't believe I really ever told many of my clients they were empathic souls. I didn't yet have this mapped. So I'm sure, Diane, and any client, of course, I gave you the guidance I would give any empathic soul, but I didn't have the mapping then. So it wouldn't have probably come out of my mouth. So yes, Diane, empathic soul, you, yeah. But that's probably why I didn't say it. That's a great question. I love it. Because we all evolve. As teachers, as people, we evolve. My work's evolved enormously. It's always exciting for me. I'm never bored. I mean, there's always another level. Even when I think, okay, that's got to be it, right? Nope. There's always another level. Great question. Okay. Any other questions? And then let's see. Maybe I'm going to throw you guys to the video just quickly here. Okay, Robin Bradshaw. I'm going to try to work with this question just because I think it's kind of cool. Love rebel, engaging in vampires and narcissists that you love, but hey, boundaries or avoidance. I want to give you, so what I want to do, Robin, I'm not sure I'm going to answer your question exactly, but I want to take it and riff out, and I think it'll answer it. We'll see. Because I want to talk about the love rebel. We in this culture, and this is why empathic souls need a love rebel. Love this question. But we in this culture, and this is really in some ways, if we go to being a patriarchy, this becomes even more true for women, I would say. But we're taught that, and this goes all the way around the board, from religions to, new age groups to, new age spirituality. We're taught that to be angry, for example, ain't cool. That you got to be nice. If you're so spiritual, you'd be nice, right? We're taught that if you really care about people, let me tell you what we're really taught. That if you really care about people, you won't have boundaries. You'll help them. You'll selflessly sacrifice yourself to help others, right? So Judeo-Christian, and found in other religious traditions, obviously, but leaning into the Judeo-Christian tracks of our culture, this is everywhere. Compassion means to suffer with Jesus, to suffer as Jesus did. That's one definition. Then there's the Buddhist. To have compassion means to simply encompass certain things in your experience as okay. Not that you got to like them, not that you agree with them, but they're here, they're part of your experience, and you accept them. There's another way to go with compassion. But we're not taught a compassion that says, you know what? I can love you and tell you to F off at the same time because I'm done with this shadow dancing. I'm done with your vampiric boundary violating and taking things out of my system as a vampire. I'm done with your narcissism. And I say that from love. You're not served by your narcissism and vampirism. I'm not served by it. Neither of us are served by it. Now, what's also true is you like me being the blood donor, so you're not going to like me telling you I don't want to do it anymore. And if the only way right now in my development that I can tell you I'm not doing that anymore is to swear at you, is to yell at you, is to get you out of my house, disinvite you, dear vampire, from my life, well, that's the way I'm going to go. We're taught, oh, that's not nice. And what a love rebel does is a love rebel says, okay, think about rebellions, y'all. Think about any true rebellion. Something motivated by a mystical cause. Something like the Civil War of my country. Civil rights movement in my country. which is about racism. It's about having equality for everybody, regardless of race. That's a mystical cause. And then we get into, well, this is the right way to rebel, as if there is ever a right or wrong way. There's just rebellion. And let's be honest, they're usually pretty bloody. People get, roughed up. I want you to think about any time that you had to rebel in your life. It's not a nice process, is it? You're taking on a system of some kind, whether that's your own internal system of patterns and perceptions, or how others relate to you through the way you relate to yourself in that system. Whenever you rebel, well, get ready to draw a sword. That sword could be your words. That sword could be, a divorce filing. But it ain't going to be easy. So the love rebel, to me, is this badass new way to move in the world that says, you know what? No one again can tell me that I am not a loving and kind human being just because I suddenly value myself enough to have boundaries and execute a defense of said boundaries in the way that works for me for now. So if that means talk to the hand, don't come near me, that's what that means for a while. And that's the thing. In the love rebel, we never make the system even evil or wrong per se. We don't give it that power. We simply make a declaration of independence that says, I'm not going to live and co-create through this system anymore. Try not to swear, because I like to swear. Yeah. So get out. Get off my foot. Get out of my house. Get out of my life. Now, I don't say that because you're not enough, because I got to make you wrong. I say that because I love me and you enough to teach you this does not serve your soul. This violating and vampiricism, and it doesn't serve your soul any more than it serves mine. So I'll draw a sword, and I will tell you I love you while I cut you at the same time if you cross this line. We're not taught like you can actually move in the world that way, especially in such a hyper PC culture, or a lot of the ways that we roll around in culture these days. We're not really taught that. Not really. And I want you to think about the times you've used shame as a way to get others not to rebel against you, and how they've done the same to you. We're shamed for our anger. We're shamed for being triggered. We're shamed when, in fact, there's something that I teach in this course called mystical triggering. And it is intuitive instruction. It's your system saying, you need to take action here. You are violating your own holism if you don't. And how do we get to that? We get triggered. We got mystical triggering. Yeah, and then we have traumatic triggering, which is mostly what we talk about. Trigger warnings are usually about traumatic triggering, but there's mystical triggering. And that love rebels are usually ignited by it. So I just wanted to take a minute to talk about that archetype some more. It's fantastic. Once you start to get a relationship going with this force in you, it will be a love relationship. I trust me. Let me just say a little more insight there. Rebellion is the beginning, but we're not made energetically capable of staying in rebellion all the time. At some point, you have to move to revolution. And rebellion is this: confronting the oppressor, confronting the oppressive system. That can be a person, that can be a system, that can be a group, that can be anything in your life that is violating your holism, your equality. What is holism? Your equality, your sense of esteem, your integrity, your sense to have a loving rapport with yourself, your sense to be alive, to be whole. And whole isn't perfect. Whole is I'm enough, I'm awesome, I'm messed up and awesome. Both are true. I'm enough. I belong here. I have a soul contract to be here. I have a purpose that's unfolding here. And what you're doing is violating that in whatever way you do. So I'm going to rebel against you. This whole system violates my soul esteem, or the soul esteem of another, or the right to life of another, or the right to boundaries and equality of another. All right, that's rebellion. But what's revolution? Revolution is, all right, we've confronted the oppressive system, we've gone head to head, and now we must replace it with something new. So a new system gets instituted. That's the revolution. If you don't have both working together, so love rebel will eventually become the love revolutionary. But if you don't have both working together, you're missing something here. And so what you see, just a little side note here, around right now is all these false rebellions. And you got to know the oppressive system will always and forever offer you the false rebellion first, because it gets you off the track of what the real rebellion needs to be. So long as you and I call each other Democrat and Republican, the whole system can still thrive because we're fighting each other, which is what the system's designed to do, for example. We never get to the place of real rebellion or what the real rebellion needs to be. We faction off, fight each other, or go into, conspiracies now, instead of sitting down and going, all right, this whole system's screwing us all. These politicians, they don't care about any of us on any side. Do we want to have a conversation about that? Now we're talking revolution. That's revolution. So these are alive forces in culture, obviously, and in our evolutionary process right now. That's why this course is so poignant, so relevant, because it is about you moving in your own destiny with new coordinates of self, with a new psychology that accommodates your multisensory nature and your multidimensional shamanic nature as well. And how to do that in a way where you're like, okay, if I get my compass, I'm going to know the real map and where the true north is. I'm going to know my next, let's say, true step for me. I'm going to know my calling, because I have now a way to be with me that includes all of what makes me me, including my empathic soul. So, okay, I don't know if I answered your question, but that sure was fun. Okay, Britt, how are you? How do we ever move forward? Well, that's what I cover in this course, y'all. All right. Naomi Schwartz. How do I learn to build healthy boundaries? Ooh, that's good. So here's what I'm going to do, y'all. I'm going to try to shift you to the video I wanted to show you, and I'll play it for a little while. If you have any other questions, put them here. I'll maybe come and answer them after I'm done. We're already an hour live here, but I'll also put a link in the description of this Facebook Live or YouTube Live, wherever you are, that lets you know where to watch the rest of this video I'm going to show you. It's a 2-hour video. Its sole intention truly is to help you identify for yourself if you are an empathic soul and what that actually means. So I'm going to see if I can pull this up right now. Here we go. Enjoy. I'm not going anywhere. I'll still be here. So I'll be back in a bit. Just enjoy this little 20 minutes or so. Well, welcome formally to this webcast event, Are You an Empathic Soul? It's kind of an odd thing for me to do a webcast event that's actually headlined by a question. In fact, I'm not so sure I've ever done that before. But in this particular case, it is so incredibly appropriate because I think that there's a lot of confusion that exists in the field of psychology, spirituality, and self-help, and I would even say mysticism around the topic of empathy. We have definitely registered, many of us, that we are highly sensitive, right? I think most of you that are here because of that question. Are you an empathic soul? There's a need to kind of understand, your soul's driving you to understand something much more profound about your own empathic system than just the simple human definition of what empathy is, which is very limited. Here we are, entering into this event through the question, are we empathic souls? Are you an empathic soul? What is an empathic soul? So one of my first intentions, I've got many things, many agendas I'm up to in this particular webcast event. One is that I really want you to leave this webcast event, one, knowing with 100% certainty that you are or are not. Let's leave that possibility here as well. But that you are an empathic soul. Now, I'm going to wager, because I know how synchronicity works, I know how that psychic law of synchronicity aligns things, that if you're here, there's a 99% chance you're an empathic soul. But what you probably don't have, and that's also why you're here, is an understanding of what that even means, what that even is. And if you've been watching me on my Facebook Lives lately, or getting my newsletter, or just seeing me on Instagram, wherever I happen to jump in and teach and share information, you know I've been talking a lot for about a month now about empathy, the empathic soul, and the Empathic Soul Contract. And that brings in the next thing that is part of my intention with you in this webcast event, is to not only make you aware, okay, we're going to get this down. We're going to know, are you an empathic soul? Absolutely, got you. But that's not enough. I want you to understand whether or not you are conscious of what it requires of you as an empathic soul in a human five-sensory journey, what it requires of you to live a destiny as an empathic soul in a human five-sensory psychology, five-sensory, based body. What does that require of your soul to integrate and merge with this being human, our humanness? And that said, what's the soul contract here? Now, the truth about soul contracts, which I'll define shortly, is that they're so dynamic. Everyone's contract is really, truly unique. But what I'm after here is something that I found in my work over 15 years of doing intuitive readings full time. And that is this baseline I begin to see around certain souls, most of them in my practice. And that is, they seem to carry this unique ability to feel different bandwidths of information, emotion, psychic fields. They seem to have this unique capacity to feel more. So when we, in this new age of talking about becoming multisensory and talk about multisensory abilities, I don't think oftentimes we actually register on the ground level what that's going to mean to you, to us, to be able to track this, to be able to feel more, to perceive more, to experience more than just what the five senses can do. And the reality is, if you're an empathic soul, you already know exactly what I'm talking about. You know what it's like to be you. At least I hope you do. You know that you somehow can wake up one day in a funky mood for no reason. You look to your life, there's maybe some things going on that are kind of challenging, but not to the degree that you're flattened in a sense of despair or anxiety or fear. You're not tracking anything in your immediate field that is equating the degree in which you're feeling something that intensely. Does that sound like you? Because if it does, okay, let's go through the markers of exactly, let's call this Empathic Soul Assessment Part 1. this would be a marker for me on this first part of assessing you, that you are, yes, indeed, an empathic soul. No doubt about it. If you are someone who is highly sensitive and is able, and this is the big key, to feel things that you can't locate in your own personal experience. You can't locate why you're depressed. You can't locate why you're angry, why you're feeling frustrated, why suddenly you've got this short fuse out of nowhere. Why the air, the atmosphere, the psychic atmosphere feels so heavy and overwhelming. You know, you can't look to your personal life and go, oh, I can see why this is generating in my field. If that sounds like something you've experienced before, you're in the right place. You're also in the right place if just generally right now, with all of the insane negative energy in our evolutionary process that's going on right now. That's the nicest way I can say it. With all of that, those toxic free radicals and negativity, if you're feeling like, dude, I don't even want to leave my house, let alone because of COVID-19, I step out the door and the psychic field feels like it's a weight on my shoulders, it's crushing down on me, then you're also in the right place. Because that's what empathic souls feel. They feel fields. They perceive dimensions that are far larger than their own. Now, if you do sometimes find yourself feeling anxious, depressed, fearful, exhausted, hopeless, angry, or just stuck in negative thinking for no apparent reason, if you've been finding that happening in your system, or if you found that that's happened a lot through your life, you're in the right place. So, and let's add in another thread to this, and this is partly why I want to do this, is that empathic souls, what's broken my heart, really, I mean, truly broken my heart, is seeing empathic souls suffer. And to see folks with empathic souls suffer in ways that they don't know why they feel so bad. They're on to the next witch hunt of how to shift themselves out of a negative state without ever taking a pause to go, maybe this isn't even mine. Maybe this anxiety isn't mine. Or maybe this anxiety is only partly mine. I got some stuff going on in my life that's making me feel anxiety and a little afraid, and certainly there's some survival fear kicking in here because it's, scary survival times. But I'm feeling level 10, when for me, this feels like it normally would be like a level 3 of all those emotional triggers and feelings. And what's broken my heart out of that is people making themselves wrong. Like there's something wrong with me. There's something that I'm not doing right. So I want to share with you a story that for me was my turning point in my intuitive work to understand this phenomena of empathic souls incarnating. And then I want to give you a historical context, because what's true is that in the last 100 years, at the turn of the 20th century, we're in the 21st century now, but at the turn of the 20th century, empathic souls began incarnating in mass onto the planet. There were different ages and eras throughout our recorded human history, and I'm not going to give you a huge history lesson because I'd love to, but we're going to keep it tight. But there have been, throughout different eras and epochs on the planet, times when empathic souls showed up in bulk. They started to incarnate in bulk. And we're in another one of those times. So we used to maybe think of empathic souls. Let me give you some historical examples because they're notable. Not only are they notable examples, they're ones you'll recognize. Let's look at Jesus Christ. Totally an empathic soul. We could look to other mystics that Buddha, another empathic soul. We could look to other bigger name mystics throughout all of history that have incarnated, and most, we could look to this last century, Mother Teresa. Totally an empathic soul. I guess I'm staying in my Catholic zone here. Can you tell I grew up Catholic? But there were so many other beings, empathic souls, that have come down to the planet back in the oracular consciousness of the Greeks, the oracles themselves, that resided at temples and, basically did a divination on people's fates and destinies. They were empathic souls. So these have existed all throughout time. But historically, in most recent history for us, and by recent I'm going back 2,000 years, just to be clear, but we only kind of noticed the ones that were the big moniker names, like Jesus Christ, like Mother Teresa, like Joan of Arc. These figures that came down, and they seem to have perceptual capacities that transcended the five senses. They just seem to have these abilities, not only to do that, but to heal people, to channel energy. So as you look to yourself and grounding you back into yourself, because what's going on now is fascinating to me, because we're in an era of many empathic souls incarnating, and they don't necessarily look like these flashy metaphysical stars on the scene of healing and of awakening. But nonetheless, they still got an incredible flash. Yet, what happens to a lot of empathic souls, and this might be you, is that rather than recognize the gifts they come bearing on the soul level, they only see the pain of their challenges of trying to find footing as a multisensory soul in a five-sensory body and world, and five-sensory human survival psychology. So in my work as an intuitive, what I began to realize in two different stages. One, I had to learn earlier on that there were different kinds of souls. It never occurred to me that maybe some souls were empathic, some souls were 2D, more the 3D variety. Then we had the multi-D variety. And let me tell you how I came into that particular awareness. So, and then I'm going to share with you a very pivotal story of an actual client reading. So when I began doing intuitive readings, and this was probably when I was in my very early 30s full time, and many of you know that I work a lot with the intuitive tool, my favorite intuitive tool, which is astrology. So in the early days, a lot of my readings involved using the natal birth chart. And if you don't know what that is, it's a chart that's erected based on the exact time, date, and place of birth for someone. And it sets up this archetypal blueprint of fate and destiny. It shows me, the way I work with it, so many things. It shows me your soul contract. It shows me the timing of that contract. It shows me a lot of the archetypal energies that you're bringing into this world on a soul level. It also shows me the journey forward from here of what you're meant to develop as a destiny this lifetime. We don't just come here to burn off negative karma, though we've been led to believe that in a shame-based culture. We actually come here for the evolutionary progression of our soul's growth. And that sometimes does involve, meeting old lessons and fine-tuning them, but it doesn't play out the way we often think it does, karmically. It plays out much differently. Anyway, I started doing readings for mothers and their children. So I started to get, and this would happen a lot when I was doing readings, like 1 week I would have a theme. So I ended up in this 1 week where I had twins themes. So all these mothers that had twins were coming to me and they wanted me to read the soul contracts of their children through the astrological birth chart. So when you have a twin, what's often most common is that they will have the exact same birth chart, even if there's like a 5-minute, 3-minute difference in their time of birth. I mean, if it goes longer than that, the chart could be a little different. But let's just, for all intents and purposes of what I'm trying to teach you here, just name that, hey, they have the same chart. But what would happen, because there's a part of me that's looking at the chart, the astrologer in me, then there's the intuitive psychic in me that's getting impressions from that zone of my multisensory capacities, and I'm melding them together. And so I'm reading these charts, and this mother comes to me with 2 kids, and that week, my twins week, I probably had 3 clients with twins. And the very first client I had, I remember looking at the charts and going, okay, well, here's their birth charts. But then I remember clicking my intuitive skill on and then feeling the souls of the twins. And I could feel how one soul was going to use the architecture of that chart differently than the other. And I could feel their personality differences. I could feel their soul vibrational differences. So when I got on the phone, because I always read clients before I called them, but when I got on the phone to talk to the mother of these children and said, this son manifests the energy of the chart this way. This son manifests the energy of the chart this way. It was bang on. And it was from then on with twins. I was always accurate in terms of looking at the chart and knowing the consciousness that had the contract with that chart. And my point being that souls are different. And I began to understand that some souls come in with this multi-sensory kind of badass bandwidth and capacity to channel energies, feel dimensions, dimensionally travel, to feel people. So what does that look like in this life? Feel people, feel groups, feel energetic fields, even absorb thought forms, mental energy from people. Some souls have that. Now, folks, I'm going to tell you right now, we've had this misconception that somehow we're becoming multisensory beings and as humans, we're finally arriving, at this place where we finally are creating this capacity to have multisensory skills. But what I learned in my work is that actually the reverse is true. What's true is multisensory beings are incarnating into this 5-sensory nervous system, human brain, all this stuff. And their vibrational energy is attuning the human body to be able to do what the soul already can. And that is feel other fields, energies, etc. Hold on to that thought because it's a huge insight that we have to go into deeper later. But right now, I want you to take that and go, oh, how does that feel to me? I would wager it feels pretty true. Because I got thousands of readings behind me that's for me, that for me let me know it's true. So what do we got on the map so far? We got different souls that exists, and I'm going to say different soul groups. Now, our tendency on a human level is to look at the soul and soul groups and all these things from a hierarchical kind of valued point of view, where these souls are a higher value, these souls are a lesser value, and I want to tell you on the mystical level of things, that doesn't exist. But what is true is that there are souls that are in different states of evolution. That is true. Even though I can say, look, there's no greater or lesser value amongst us all as souls, what's also true is some souls are they're from a different tribe of souls, they're from a different group, and they're in a different state of evolution within their journey, their eternal journey, near as we can tell, right? So I want to put that on the map now, and I want you to take that in for a second. We've got souls, now we've got different groups of souls, and what I began to see over time is that there's this group that I just started to call Empathic Souls, because that's in the human sense of their journey. The way you would begin to understand that they were Empathic Souls is that they were just some enlightened being like Jesus walking around laying hands on people and healing and casting demons out of them. Rather, you know what they looked like? They looked like addicts, raging codependents. These empathic souls in human form looked like people who felt disconnected or orphaned from their family or their tribes. They looked far, shall I say, messier than our perfectionist ideas of what an empathic or more evolved soul would look like in human form is actually oftentimes the exact opposite. So I want to share with you a story that for me was pivotal in this perception I just shared with you. And that was, I had a guy named Tom. I'm giving him an anonymous name to protect his anonymity, but this was earlier on, I'd say, relatively speaking, in my intuitive career. I think I was about 4 years into doing readings full time. And I had this man come to me who was an admitted alcoholic and trying to recover from his alcoholism. And he had been through all sorts of different treatment facilities. His family had reached the end with him. They didn't know what to do with him. He just could not get sober. And he himself just did not get it. He did not understand, why can't I get sober? I try. And it felt like to him, he felt like he was possessed. So he came to me for a reading. I mean, I was kind of like, he's like, oh, let's go just try this dude out and see if he can help me out. So I remember when I was preparing for the reading and I was tuning into his soul, I remember seeing that this particular man had what I call the bodhisattva contract. It's an empathic soul contract. So as empathic souls, you're going to have different empathic soul contracts in which there are archetypal forces in you that really lead a lot of your journey. And for him, one of them was the bodhisattva archetype. Now I have to tell you what that is, because obviously you might be going, I don't even know what you just said. It's a Buddhist term, if you will. And it's something I named just because it was the best name for this pattern that I'd never seen this pattern. It was the best name I could give it. A bodhisattva in Buddhism is an enlightened being who, even though they've attained their own enlightenment, decides to reincarnate anyway so that they can help everyone else get off the wheel of suffering and wheel of incarnation. This is, I'm speaking from Buddhist philosophy, not my particular beliefs, and I'm just sharing with you. They call these beings bodhisattvas. They come back down, they reincarnate on behalf of the liberation of all beings from suffering. So when I say that he had the bodhisattva contract, what I mean to say, and I'm going to pull it into my filters and understanding and how I came up with this, is that he was a soul who had incarnated into a family where in the family system existed a lot of addict patterns from his both his parents' side, both paternal and maternal side. Most of the grandparents were either no longer alive because of alcoholism or some sort of other addiction. Of course, one of the other patterns that pairs up with the addict is oftentimes the codependent. So there was rampant issues of codependency. So Tom's soul, I could see it. I saw this happening. The impression I had before I even talked to him was that he had stepped into a family system where he took into his own system as an empathic soul the momentum of all of the addict pattern from generations into himself, such that he pulled it. Imagine he pulling this toxin out of the family psyche, absorbing it into his own field, which on a human level means his own psychology, his own cells, his own nervous system. On a soul level, he pulled it in. And in the pulling of it in, he pulled it away from all of his siblings. And the last remnant of codependency that his father was passed, but the mother still had, got pulled as well. So what that looked like in the family was he had very functional, healthy siblings and a mother that was pretty deep into her codependent recovery from codependency. But he was an out of control addict. And what I realized was that he didn't see his empathic soul's contract or power because the human wounding and the addiction itself had blinded him to that. And I remember getting on the phone and saying to him, You're not seeing you. You have this soul contract as an empathic soul to take on all of this negative momentum and shift it like an alchemist, another empathic soul archetype. Turn that lead to gold. Because you have a soul powerful enough to do that. The only thing you don't have here is a human psychology that can perceive in a shame-free way what this dynamic really is. And I just remember him crying and just gushing tears, and it was one of those moments where you're sharing such a profound truth with somebody that you just changed their whole entire life. You know it, and he knew it. He knew that moment with me, and just that perception alone created a 180-degree shift. So he ended up, I'm sure you can guess this, getting sober. And as far as I know, still is sober. I have not heard from this man for many years, but
he not only got sober, he ended up becoming an addictions counselor. Can you imagine an addictions counselor now receiving addicts into their practice with the sort of esoteric knowing that I might be getting empathic souls through the door here. I better look alive and give them a read over, because if that's what's true, I've got to approach their healing from this addiction in an entirely different way. Now, this story, to me, that I'm sharing with you from this client experience, that moment for me changed a lot of how I approached readings, how I even looked at myself, and how I looked at every client coming through the door. When I had that realization that there are some souls that incarnate into family systems or life systems to absorb the dark in some way so that they can exhale out the light. It changed a lot of how I worked with clients. And to this day, clearly, that's why I'm sharing it with you, has changed how I look at myself and other people. And to look at the surface. And so I want you to take a moment with yourself right now and take this from this story. If you have been someone who has really struggled holding boundaries with people, felt very overwhelmed by the energies of other people, feel like you got a monkey on your back from your family and your family system that you just cannot shake off. Feel like you yourself maybe relate to this man Tom and his addict pattern. You feel like Robert, I've been trying my whole life to get traction in some kind of empowerment, empathically, some empathic empowerment shift. And I've gone to, and this is where I would caution everybody, and this is a teachable moment to go, okay, well, there's a lot of conventional wisdom out there in all sorts of fields, whether that's psychology, whether that's metaphysical communities, New Age and spiritual communities, and even some mystical communities and religious communities. There's a lot of ideas that float around empathy and what to do if you feel overwhelmed by the energy of other people. And what I realized in my work was that a lot of what you hear, things like, have better boundaries, do rituals where you sage and smudge, light candles, all these things that you would hear, what I began to realize, what they really are? It's a lot of it's medicine for empathic triage. It's medicine that helps you in an empathic state of overwhelm and overload, kind of stop the bleeding, if you will. But it doesn't get to the real dynamic of why you're bleeding in the first place. It doesn't go deeper than that. And without the perception of what I just shared with you, that you are an empathic soul and that you have a journey, a contract on a soul level to step into dark things and somehow bring light. If you don't understand that clause in your contract, you can't activate other medicine that could really empower you. Now, I want to be clear about something here too, because I
everybody,
think
wow, right? That story gets me every time. Tom's story, it really does. So anyway, if you want to watch the rest of that video, I'm going to put a link in, actually, let me see if I can post it in the comments right now. I'm not sure. Oh, no, I can't. But I'll put a link in, in the actual course or video description shortly here. That'll take you right to watch the rest of that video. That I think you watch like the first 30 minutes if you're looking for a marker in that video itself. And that's on my website. So it's 2 hour. There's another hour and a half you can watch of insights that really do guide you to explore this question: are you an empathic soul? I think if you're resonating with a lot of what I already said today, then, like I said, I think odds are, you're an empathic soul. So I would definitely, let me see if I can there's the link. You can go right to it from there. And then I'll also post it up in the video descriptions. But just see, in yourself, if you're called to go further in this. I think it's truly some of the most powerful, if not the most powerful stuff I've ever taught, and that I am engaging. And so this really might be something really meant for you. And I'm going to, do my best to help you explore that question. Is it meant for you? Are these masterclasses meant for you? If you have any questions right now, thank you. Thank you for that compliment. Sathi Priya, I appreciate that. Daniela. Okay, mostly just comments. Well, I'm so glad you all showed up to at least take some of this in. It just couldn't be more relevant. And I do think it's where we are in our growth. Many of us, we're ready for a new multi-sensory psychology, multi-dimensional psychology and spirituality to see us to the next level of our light work, of fulfilling our destinies and our purposes. One of the things I do in Empathic Soul 1.0 that I almost want to go back and revisit myself is I go through every archetype in the Empathic Soul Contract that I've seen, the primary ones. In Empathic Soul 2.0, I actually add in new ones, like the mystical magician, and then the love rebel takes some shifts and turns, and there's a lot more new that comes into the 2.0 version. This is college level. I mean, obviously, you can tell by the depth of what I've communicated and shared today. This is definitely something you want to give some time to, but you have lifetime access to any of these courses, and you can go check them out. And I'm not done talking about them. I'll be sharing with you on another social live some more video footage and some other things, but I'm going to let you go check out that 2-hour video from what I just showed 30 minutes of and go deeper. Check it out. See if it resonates for you. I really believe this. Obviously, I have to market courses, etc., but I never want a student in a course that they don't belong in. And I want to make sure you're in the right place. So I just try to give you enough to really sense that whether or not a course is right for you. Now, wanted to remind everybody beyond that, I'm going to be starting a podcast, and you're going to join me for the live production of that podcast, just like this. I'm going to stream it just like this. Obviously, I'm going to have a microphone directly in front of my mouth and stuff, but that's going to start in March. So make sure you're on my newsletter to be apprised of that schedule. Obviously, you can hop on and see me live anytime that I'm here, if you want to, but you might want to get some advance notice to show up. It will be scheduled. I'm not just going to spontaneously show up and do a podcast. So if you want to join me for that, it's going to be super fun. You can watch me stream it. And then it won't be available as a podcast for a couple more months because we're going to do post-production, a lot of other things to it, but you can catch like a preview, an early video version starting in a couple of weeks. All right. Lots of love to you. Happy Social Friday. I may be doing a Social Tuesday. If not, I'll see you next Friday for sure, right here. We're going to continue this conversation about Empathic Soul and Love Rebels. Let me just take a moment to say goodbye. And let me see what new comments are going out. Yes, podcast. Yeah, it's going to be really fun. I'm so excited. Just got to get some things off my deck to actually make the space to do it. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, everybody. So once again, I'll post the link right now for you to go watch the rest of that video clip. 2-hour, actually kind of like it's a 2-hour class that lets you dial into whether or not you're an empathic soul or not. I definitely think it's worth your time. Give it a shot. Okay. Thanks for joining me. Let me see. I got to end the broadcast. I'll see you all possibly this next Tuesday, but for sure next Friday. Lots of love. Namaste. And remember to check the video description for the link to the full video. All right. See you next time.